Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
Happy New Year. There, I got it out of the way. How are you? Glad you could join us. He's Mike. I'm Sean. So much to get into. Hopefully, you're not too, hungover. How's that? You're not too hungover. You're okay? You're feeling okay today?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, come on. You know, I was the first one in America in bed. I didn't watch any of it. I enjoyed one or two drinks over the course of some great hockey that I know we're going to talk about, a lackluster playoff game for college, but no, not at all. I was nice and tight in bed and ready for today.
Yeah, you know what? The tradition came back last night, as a matter of fact, and that's a perfect place to start. Why they moved away from it to begin with, Mike, I will never, ever know. It was such a great tradition for those of us that are hockey fans. And if you're watching this right now, well, chances are you're a hockey fan. USA, Canada, New Year's Eve, and it didn't disappoint last night. USA comes away with a convincing 4-1 victory.
And 4-1, I don't even think tells the story of how convincing it was. I think Canada was feisty in there, but the U.S. blew a lot of chances too. They had a lot more chances than the 4 goals that they had. But again, Sean, I got to piggyback on you. Why we've had to wait since 2016 for this, I'll never know. But you said the tradition came back. Didn't it just bring back memories though? Like yep. I sat down, I had over here the iPad, over here my phone propped up for the Red Wings game and the college playoff game. The big screen had that game on, and it just hit me like it was like, oh, wow. It's like it never left us, though. And what a game. Did that not disappoint? Like instant classic.
No, and it's funny because, Mike, that's what I did. I thought about all the different, okay, I was here for that game. I was there for that game. I think I told you the one time we were at Amalie Arena in Tampa watching it in 2016. It was unbelievable. It really was. But what's interesting about it is, obviously people are going to talk about Trey Augustine. And I totally understand that. But, Mike, I think to just dismiss the rest of the team, like, they were the better team last night. Make no mistake about that. There were some things that were some misnomers, if you will, about those two teams that I think Team USA kind of cast aside last night.
But that's almost every year they come in and it's Canada, and especially when the game's in Canada, right? But yeah, the big guys didn't disappoint. The defense that's looked shaky during the round robin, should we say here, of the tournament, did what they were supposed to do. They were active. They were doing the things. They got involved in the offense, couple assists. Byam had a little bit of a burr under his saddle. But with that, I couldn't get away from watching it, and I'm sure you saw too, just how undisciplined Canada was. Like it really, as that game went along, you thought the feistiness was going to get the crowd going, especially when they got the goal. But they just tumbled and never got themselves back on track. I was kind of amazed that just as the game went along, the more undisciplined and uncharacteristic it looked like a Team Canada team.
Do you know what? And it reminded me a lot, and everybody's going to talk about the Latvia game, and rightfully so. I mean, it was historic, okay? And I need to remind people, it's so funny, like, this doesn't preclude Canada from winning the whole damn thing. The road gets more difficult, but that's the beautiful thing about a tournament like this. But what jumped out to me about it is boy, when they start to, I don't want to say unravel because you can't say they unraveled, but let's say the going gets tough. All their forwards seem snake bit, don't they? And
yes.
Mike, I saw the exact same thing. Like, okay, what do we need to do to get that goal? Oh, do we make that one more pass? Do we make that one more move? It really is kind of that snake bit type of situation,
Yeah, it almost gets you thinking. Like it bothers me, and I know I've said it to you. And you get the fact that Canada gets this tournament every other year, and the pressure that are on these kids, it almost seems to mount on them. And then again, this was a typical Canada loss. And right at the end there, McKenna steps his game up, and like they're pull the goalie. Now they're going to start doing stuff. But I can't get away from the pressure of those kids and at home to beat this U.S. team. Kind of seems like it gets to them. But unlike a team like Sweden that doesn't have a problem in the prelim, then their problems come once they get into the medal round. Canada seems to go the opposite way. They seem to have some struggles at times in the prelim round. Then they show up, and maybe they'll do something in the medal round. It's going to be a little bit tough. I mean, they're playing a tough team coming up here in the quarterfinals, but I expect to see them move forward.
Happy New Year, guys. Tom up in London, Ontario, as well to you, my friend. It's what people like to watch on New Year's. Exactly. You're a hockey fan. You're dialed in. Skydog said Latvia 3, Canada 2, Miracle on Ice 2. That was a fascinating watch, no doubt. The coach, how about Tom Nugent? Great game by USA. I go back, Mike. I mean, I think one of the most dumbfounding things in my lifetime, I could not figure it out for the life of me, is when USA Hockey, for whatever reason, wanted to bring simply just the guys that played in their system. And it was funny because at the time I was working in the OHL. And I think a lot of people said, well, that's just the OHL people crying. And I used to get so angry at that. And I'm not working in the OHL any longer. And I said the same damn thing when I was working for USA Hockey. And I'll say it right here. You are having a tournament of the best from multiple countries, and you're basically telling everybody we're not bringing our best. We're only bringing the best that decided to go our route. It was one of the dumbest decisions in the history of mankind. And the fact that, Mike, learned people doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on it was one of the dumbest things in the history of international hockey. The point is to bring your best. I don't care if one of your best is playing over in the KHL, for goodness sake. It doesn't matter to me. What you want to do is you want it to be the best against the best. And coincidentally, if you recall, that first year that they said, okay, well, we're going to bring some of these OHL kids. Yes, they didn't go down the path that we wanted. No, they didn't go to the NAL. They didn't go to the USHL. They didn't go play for NTDP. We're going to do our best to bring our best. Coincidentally, the United States won a gold medal that year. And they've won multiple gold medals since then. It blows my mind that, Mike, not that long ago, okay, we were having these discussions. And, boy, that first win in 2004, in so many ways, it seems like a few weeks ago. Mike, it's 20 years now. It's insane.
I can't believe you just said that. That's one of those memories of bringing them back. I remember watching that game. I was basically sitting in this same spot. I had the older big screen here. Had my daughter down here. We were watching the game. She was just a little one who went on to play hockey. This is what this tournament does. I hate also. I'm going to get off on a tangent, but when you sit here and you watch it, and if you're a hockey fan, this tournament, I think, has started a lot of kids' hockey career watching this with them. But back to the original one is that, Sean, you have barked up that tree of bringing the best for so long, and it's a great conversation that me and you have had. And I know you have actually voiced that to people that matter too. And that is very interesting, those conversations that you had.
It's mind-boggling. It is. I mean, honestly, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully. Okay. I would challenge some of the people that I've had these conversations with. I would challenge them on this very day to try to justify that. I know it's in the rearview mirror, okay? It is. It's in the rearview mirror, and that's great. But the fact that we actually had to have these conversations, and there had to be some twisting of the arm It's mind-boggling. It really, hey, you know what? We're having this world tournament. Okay, cool. Canada's going to bring all their best. Cool. Switzerland's going to bring all their best. Awesome. Russia's going to bring all their best. Great. We're not going to bring all our best. Okay. Well, can I ask why? Well, because some of these guys aren't playing in the league that we want them to play in.
Yeah.
Well, who's that hurting? Honestly, and that's what I would say. I remember having conversations where, this is going to sound mean, but I'm going to say it anyway. I felt like I was talking to 11-year-olds. I really did. There was like a wall of 11-year-old logic just going, oh, okay, well, who are you? Are you trying to show them? Are you trying to shame them and say, well, you should have gone this way because you could have represented us? It's mind-boggling to me. The only person you were hurting was yourself and USA Hockey, the brand. It was some of the worst logic in the history of mankind.
But yet they thought they were making the right decision for some reason. Everyone could speculate why the decisions are made. Are these money decisions because USA Hockey wants money? But you look at in a smaller kind of case, it still exists. I mean, talking to a lot of people, you talk to a lot more in the know. There's still decisions made around this USA Hockey development program that can be questioned all over the place.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not going to go there today because it's a good day. They knocked off Canada.
I tried.
Yeah, maybe we'll go a different direction sometime.
Well,
maybe we'll have that conversation sometime.
I think we might have that conversation as we're going out to St. Clair Shore Saturday.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Mike and I are heading out to fantastic high school hockey game that particular day. Looking forward to it. Chippewa Valley and St. Clair Shores Unified. Let me quickly tell you about All About Catering. All About Catering LLC is a full service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people, All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal, and Rick and his gang do a fantastic job with it. So don't sweat your next big event. Guys like Mike and I, we love to cook. Sometimes we collaborate. Sometimes you just can't do it. So you know what you do? You go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398, to get your event started. Mike, one of the yearly traditions for me, and I was fortunate to see a couple friends play in this tournament way back in the day. I missed the GLI. I was fortunate enough to broadcast it a few times, both on radio and television. I missed the GLI. I know it's on the west side, so I don't have to miss it. But I think as well as I do, this time of year, time is of the essence. And beautiful arena out there. I've been to Van Andel many times, but I can't drive out there 2 hours, to drive back 2 hours, to drive back, blah, 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 that whole thing. But congratulations to Michigan State winning the GLI, and one of high school hockey's finest, Joey Larson, being on the all tournament team.
Oh, excellent. This Michigan State team's really starting to turn it out here, Sean, from being an early season number one, some big wins, getting back to the GLI, winning it, beating in-state. Maybe we can call them a rival, but probably not, but Western Michigan. I'm really looking forward to this college season moving on. I like yourself, I'd love to get out to the GLI. I used to get out there, take the kids out there when it was, just down the street, but 2 hours. I think about it often, but it's too bad. Do you know, can you explain where and why the move out to Grand Rapids? Was it because some of the crowds were sad at the bigger arena, the small arena might have better optics?
Yeah, that's my guess. I never got the full. That was a tradition for many, many years. It really was down at the Joe, and why they don't do it here anymore, I don't know. And again, I don't want anybody on the west side to feel disrespected here or anything like that. Van Andel is a fine arena. Make no mistake about that. But this time of year, for a lot of people, it's not that easy to pack up for a couple, make the couple-hour drive. Now, if you're staying overnight or something like that, that's different. But that was Skydog brought up an interesting point. Did the Canadians lose that game because they are smug about their hockey? There is a pressure that, Mike, you know this. There is a pressure that they feel from the time they put on skates. They're supposed to win the tournament. Okay? Because everybody in their country tells them that they're supposed to win the tournament. Everybody tells them. They inside that they're so. If you want to use the word smugness, I guess you could use that. Overconfidence, I think you could use that as well. But no, you're Canada. You're supposed to win, and that's part of it. And Mike, I can't tell you how many tournaments. And I go back to the 2002 Olympic Games. I thought the best thing that Wayne Gretzky did is when he threw down the gauntlet when they were playing like shit. And he did the whole, I believe in this team. I put this team together, and then they went onward and upward and ended up winning the gold medal and everything. It's almost like somebody needs to take the pressure off them. Does that make sense? Because as well as I do, when there is an expectation, and there's an expectation every time Team Canada takes the ice, maybe you grip the stick a little harder. Maybe as we were talking about earlier, you try to make that extra pass. You try to be extra cute, whatever the case may be. But there is that pressure that I don't think comes with any other country when you're talking about international tournaments.
Yeah, and it's really weighing on them. I thought the Latvia loss happened too early for everybody else in the tournament. I was having a conversation. That could have been the worst thing that happened. And then last night happened.
Yep.
And it does seem to be amounting. And we're looking at it. We forget sometimes we're talking about kids here. But that pressure also gets to the guys that build these teams and the adults that are on the bench. And you could see that it kind of crumbled on them. Again, I still have this feeling we're going to see a different team come out in the quarterfinals, and maybe that it just so happens sometimes these kids.
Everybody should be afraid. I'm not joking. Everybody should be afraid.
Like I said it about the Latvia loss, this loss, and just the way they went about that loss. I could be totally off the mark, and they could crumble and lose in the quarterfinals. But we've seen this story before, Sean. It happens, and especially when it's at home. These kids are at home, which we can say adds to the pressure, but I think it also helps them. Now, I think we're in for a blast of a game tomorrow, and I can't wait.
Is Tom up in London said win the tournament or it's a bust of a tournament? Yes. Yeah. Really, that silver medal, bronze medal, that doesn't mean shit. It really doesn't. Other people are going to go, hey, man, what a great run. We ended up finishing second. We ended up finishing third, whatever the case may be. No, I mean, that's a pressure that I think is strictly a Canadian thing. I really do. I think that's a pressure that is strictly a Canadian thing.
Absolutely. I was just going to say it. Everyone's got expectations. USA hockey has expectations. Sweden hockey has expectations. Finland now, me and you have had many conversations about Finland and the way they play in the international tournaments now. But the pressure is unlike no one else when you're talking about Canada. And Sean, just taking my kids out there to play, going out to watch Sebi play now, it is incredible that when you sit around in an arena, we're going to go to St. Clair Shores on Saturday. Do you think anyone's going to be talking about USA hockey?
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be happening. It's not. When you sit in a corner during a meaningless junior game or amateur game, people are talking Canadian hockey. Like it's unbelievable. It's something you have to experience, but that's also one of their biggest detriments.
Listen, let's talk to you before we get into the wing stuff and all the evils of Coach Lalonde. More on that in a second. If you are ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by the Hanson brothers right there. That's Mike Cusack on the left, Jeff Cusack on the right. They have over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life, and they have clients in over 20 different states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, then it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Mike, I'm going to start here before we start talking about the play of the Red Wings since the firing. You and I were on live when news came down that Coach Lalonde was being relieved of his duties and Todd McLellan was coming in. And much like I've said until I was blue in the face, nobody saw it coming. Todd McLellan was on nobody's radar. That's the way Steve Yzerman operates. I don't know if you feel the same way, and you guys out there, if you're seeing this. This is one of the most fascinating things I've seen in my time in the quote-unquote media. And I've been fortunate enough, believe it or not, it'll be 30 years this August since I got in this business. It just blow my mind, okay? But this, I'm not joking. This is not an overstatement. The past week and a half has been one of the most fascinating things for me because the way that I've seen people talk about what has ailed the Detroit Red Wings, the way that I've heard and seen the chatter on social media, for the most part, I don't want to paint with a big, broad brush. Mike, it seems to me like a vast majority of the people are putting everything that ails and has ailed, past tense, the Red Wings, on Derek Lalonde. And I think it is one of the most unfair things that I've seen in my lifetime. I'm very serious. Did he have to go? Absolutely, he did. We knew it. Mike, I texted you, full disclosure. I texted you. I think we talked about it on one of the shows.
Yep.
That Saturday night game in Montreal was the end. That was it. It should have been that night. Legitimately. Yeah. Steve Yzerman, I think, decided to be a nice man and do it after Christmas. But that literally, that was the end, okay? But, Mike, I don't even know where to start with this. I'll start here, okay? I'll start here. Clearly, the guy wasn't ready. Clearly, the guy was over his head. Clearly, he shouldn't have been a head coach in the National Hockey League. Can I ask everybody a really simple question? Do you have any idea who hired him? Anybody? Anybody have any idea who hired him?
Crickets.
Anybody? If he is all these things, that everybody's been talking about over his head, you know, I mean, go search. I was looking at stuff today on Twitter. It's everything's okay now, Mike, because Derek Lalonde is gone. Everything's cue the Legoland song. Everything is awesome. Let's all sing it together, right? Everything is awesome. Okay, you guys, seriously, who brought him in? Who handed him the keys to one of the most historic franchises? It was Steve Yzerman. Like, it was Steve Yzerman who thought it would be a good idea to have Derek Lalonde be the coach of this team.
Yeah.
What, Mike, am I missing something? Listen, I want to be very crystal clear when I say I am not saying that Steve Yzerman should be fired. I am not saying that eventually it's not going to work. I'm not saying any of that stuff. But while everybody is piling manure on the corpse of Coach Lalonde over there, who gave him this less than roster? Who made the decision to put him in this spot to begin with? The fear of calling out Steve Yzerman for that which he hasn't done yet is really, really odd to me. And I get it. He's a legend here. I get it. He's so many people's favorite player ever and all those things. But I think a lot of what ails the Detroit Red Wings right now has the name Steve Yzerman attached to it.
You know, you're getting no argument from me. Since the first show that we had this year, I've been harping on that this is a design problem, not a production problem. The very first show, I kind of went over that.
True story.
it just isn't. This isn't the players producing under what they should be. This wasn't a Lalone not getting. This is a design problem, this roster. And what I keep thinking is you get this coach in, how much say is he going to have in roster decisions? Because it's clear that this person that evaluated the coach that he brought in, I believe has misevaluated the roster. There's got to be another voice in there evaluating what they have. And the good thing is Coach McLellan got a great look at that in that Toronto game.
Yes. Yeah. I want to get
a great look at that.
No, I want to get into that Toronto game because I don't think you and I have talked about this. Skydog said, I took a minute or two to say Yzerman because I thought for a few seconds it was a trick question. Skydog, I hope you get my point. The way that I'm hearing people talking, it's amazing. This was, Mike, you and I talked about this back then. This was a really bad offseason for this team. A really bad. Okay, not okay, not no, it was a bad offseason for this team. Okay. And Steve Yzerman was the architect of that. He was. And I have no problem saying this. The day that Coach Lalone got hired, and I think you were with me.
Yes, I was.
I think you were actually with me. Yeah. And I had two different people. And one of them, while I was on the phone with them while you were over my house, yes, said, I can't figure out this hire. He's not a bad guy. Okay. And right. Coach Lalone is not a bad guy. I like the guy. My few interactions with him, I thought he was a great guy. He was a guy that was in over his head. And as this person, their term that they used to me was, he's a specialty coach. He's a specialty coach. Who on earth thought that this would be the guy to not only be the head coach of a historic franchise like the Red Wings, but to basically have the reins at such a critical juncture of this team as they were making the rise from the ashes of the previous regime? Who thought that would be a good idea? Like, honestly, am I a jerk for asking that question right now? And evidently Steve Yzerman thought it would be a good idea, but I'm not doing my job. This is not a shot against Steve Yzerman. I'm not doing my job, Mike, if I can't point that out to people while people are just firing manure left and right at Derek Lalone. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve it either, okay? Clearly the guy was in over his head. Who thought he was the right choice to begin with? That was Steve Yzerman's choice, and Steve Yzerman's choice alone to put him in that position.
Yeah, I think, Steve, we talked about this last show, Sean, that I think he needs more people within his regime to help him out. I think he's got, again, I don't know facts. This is my too many yes men in there, too many good old boy clubs in there. And his response during the press conference, I think, played it all out when he answered that question. You call me and tell me if you know a better way. Well, yeah. You know what, Steve? There are some people that, and I'm not talking about me, I'm a nobody. There are some people in the know that would know a better way. And that, to me, that spoke volumes. I actually laughed at that comment and I said, here we go again. It is going to be, if this continues in my feelings, a mismanaged roster. And here we go. I know, hey, Hockey Town's out there laying huge bets on them to win the Stanley Cup now that Lalone's gone. But, Sean, it's the same roster. It's the same of lack of defensive depth, the same goaltenders, the same lack of scoring. You've got Veleno on that top line with Raymond. And I mean, because there's no one else there. They're playing very well. I'm going to give them that. These last two games have been a pleasure to watch. They are competing. Their speed seems to be back. They're playing loose. As Coach said, just play effing hockey, I think is the whole thing. There's some things that are going to go on. It's a very cute thing that we're going to see here as it goes on. And maybe they get up there towards the playoffs just like last year. But what are we talking about? Is that what we are? Are we this cute bottom feeding team? Is that why Steve Yzerman's here? I still think that guy needs some help.
It's funny that you bring up that comment from Steve as well, and I guess my response would be, Steve, I'm not paid very well to kind of put together this type of situation, and yes, the circumstances stink, they do, and Steve, it's not Steve's fault that people tried to put the cart in front of the horse. So I'm not counting Steve Yzerman on that. I think the undue and unfair expectations of this team, Mike, 2 years ago, I had conversations with people 2 years ago that people looked at me and said, yeah, I think they're ready to make the playoffs. Huh? What? You know, I mean, seriously, you know, and this goes back to the hey hockey town thing. So I'm cognizant enough to let Steve Yzerman off the hook for things like that. But when you say something like that, when you say, hey, if you got a better way, give me a call. Steve, you're the general manager. You're the guy. You're the man. It's not my job.
Yeah.
It's not my job. And I, you know what? I can say this in response. I could probably put a team like this together if you gave me this.
Well, but Sean,
I think you just yawned, Steve, and forgot more about hockey. But I could put together a non-playoff team in 6 years. I'm sure I could. There's no doubt in my mind that I could put together a non-playoff hockey team in 6 years. So I think the people that are just letting Steve Yzerman off the hook on all of this, Mike, it's very peculiar to me. It really is.
It is, and I will cut a little bit of slack there because I hate the word potential. Potential means you haven't done anything yet. He's got some things with it. Augustine, you got Sandin, Palika over there. There are some things going, but there's two things. One of them I brought up last week that no one wants to talk about, and I think we need to talk about it. And one is the people surrounding Steve Yzerman, the scouts, these ex-Red Wings, these people that are in there that are helping him make these decisions on who to bring in the summer. They were a part of what happened in the summer. They are evaluating the guys coming in. And the second one, Sean, maybe you can talk a little bit about is why does no one talk about the lack of development in this system?
It's real.
Kids go to Grand Rapids and disappear. They disappear. Now, do we hit some home runs and get some guys that come up and never see Grand Rapids, Sean? We do. And those are the guys that are flirting, be it a Larkin or Raymond. Sider was there briefly with the COVID year and stuff like that. But where does everybody go? Where do all these draft picks go that go to Grand Rapids and then they come out and they're fourth liners?
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about that. I asked this question. I said, you know what? I've got Sean, you're the expert. What's going on? Why do we never hear about this lack of development? We want to fire Lalone. We want to bitch about this. Where does everyone go? It's like this abyss that people go to Grand Rapids and their talent and everything and their potential and everything disappears. I don't get it. I mean, we've got Edvinson's probably a one guy that came out that spent an extended time down there. You know, there are going to be guys, I'm sure they're going to start popping up here in the chat room, but it's a mystery. Sean, we're not developing what we think. So are we not developing them or are we not evaluating them correctly when we bring them in?
I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And you and I have talked about this for years. This town, whether it be media, whether it be people who, I don't know. I'm going to choose my words carefully because I don't want anybody to think that I'm being disrespectful. People that think they follow the junior ranks really well that don't. And I can say that because, you know, obviously I worked in the OHL, I worked in the USHL. The overrating of talent in this town is disgusting. It is. It's disgusting. And I think we saw it with the Tigers. And I don't know, is this they believe what people say? They believe the hype on this guy? Did they believe the hype on that guy? Ted said USA, great win last night. We touched on that earlier, Ted. But Mike, you know as well as I do, there is this overrating of talent, and it's really peculiar. And you and I have talked about this. Part of the problem too is even the development when they're here. I think a lot of people thought I'm gonna, and maybe I'm a victim of my own expectations, and this isn't an organizational problem. Maybe I'm part of the problem. What Mo Seider is today and what I thought he was going to be 2 years ago are two different players. In my mind, he has not taken that step. You still love him. You still, obviously, you still want him. He's still an integral part of this franchise moving forward. I think Lucas Raymond, how much of a step is he taken, Mike? And this is where I'll say I'm not a victim of my own expectations. The way he finished last season and where he is now, is it fair to say, okay, cool, there's a next level there? And it took him, about a month to get the engines fired up and things like that. But I agree with you, Mike. I think a big part of it is overrating our own. And I think that's been a huge problem with this franchise. Huge problem.
Yeah, we've talked and joked about, hey, Hockey Town and stuff. And even to get off that, it gets into the core of this organization. We can't have that. You can't have that. That is going to lead us down a path we don't want to go. But it just seems to be questions that you never hear because Steve's going to give you that gristly response of, you got a better way, Mike? You show me, you call me. No, call me. And you know what? F you. We can look at things and we can say and bring up these questions. Answer the question. Tell me that we're not seeing what we're seeing. We have many conversations, Sean. We're not allowed to see reality, right? Mm-hmm. We have to see with some smoke-colored glasses of what's going on. But I don't get it. My question, you brought up a name, Mo Seider. I know you've been out. Have you gotten to see a lot of the 3 games under McLellan?
Yes.
Okay. What were your thoughts of how the boys looked? Anybody sticking out to you? Because you brought up one that I'm going to give you a second, that I think Mo Seider really in my mind stood out in the last 3 games.
Activated, honestly, activated. You brought up the Toronto game. I want to go back to the Toronto game. Okay, they were down 5-0. They ended up losing 5-2. And I'm serious when I say this. I don't know if you felt the same way. You and I have not had a conversation about this. I purposely kept this in my brain, for this moment. Mike, I didn't think they played poorly. Yes, it was 5-0. Yes, Mitch Marner had the hat trick. I don't. Did you feel the same way? I did not. I did not feel like that was a quote unquote 5-0 game. That I compared that to that shit show in Montreal the previous Saturday, 6 days earlier. There was no comparison. There weren't passengers here. You know what? That's the game of hockey. Sometimes you get beat, and sometimes you get beat badly by a good hockey team. But Mike, honestly, I didn't think that was the same old in that game. It looked, nobody wants the result. I get it, especially when you're down 5-0 after 2. But I did not have the feeling that I guess you did for the St. Louis game, or in particular that shit show in Montreal the previous Saturday.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings on that. I'm on the same boat as you, and I was saying I was watching the game with my daughter actually, and was saying all right, you could see the effort, you could see things coming along as that game progressed. First game under a new coach. The big problem within that when I was watching it, and I think it gets to Coach McLellan's comment of just play effing hockey, was they looked like lost little kids out there that didn't know where to go, what to do. You've got to expect that. Now, if we go from that game to the Washington game to last night, progress. You're seeing, it's a totally different kind of effort and things going out there, but it was that kind of getting used to point. And I was talking in a group thread, and I don't think it was with you, that again, my daughter Olivia went down, Sean. It was right before the Washington. I think it was whatever day it was. My days are all messed up being on, but it was right after the Toronto game. They had the longest practice that they've had in the season was that it was so long. She was going there for a concert. The concert was delayed. There you go. That's what I think that was kind of stating to what we see now in the next two games. But yeah, I mean, it was a nice effort. Some guys stepping up. There's still a couple of guys that I hope they step it up so we can get rid of them. I just some of the passengers are the passengers, the flybys are the flybys, and there's guys that we will see as it goes how much coach is going to have a hand in on this roster of the team that he's going to be expected to do something with.
I think a lot of it comes back to that which we were talking about with Coach Lalonde is it's not Coach McLellan's fault that Tarasenko, for whatever reason, can't fit it at the top of that roster and seems to do anything, if at all, with the third or fourth line. That's not on Todd McLellan. It is not Todd McLellan's fault that Patrick Kane, more often than not, looks like a guy that had a major surgery that ends a lot of careers. Mm-hmm. Okay, ends a lot of careers. And now, was I all for re-signing Patrick Kane? Let me say for the record, Mike, I don't know about you. Was I all for re-signing him? Yes, I was. 100%. But you also have to consider, I'm not the general manager of the team.
Yeah.
And I think the funny thing is, and play this game. You can play this game at home. Go on Twitter and look at some of the things that people are complaining about with this team, okay? And there's always one thing kind of missing at the end of it. That was Steve Yzerman's choice. It's really, play this game. I'm serious. I was doing it last night. I was laughing. I was looking at some of the arguments going, Derek Lalonde, it's such what a night and day difference. Well, do you know that was Steve Yzerman's choice that Derek Lalonde was the coach, right? Do you understand? Do you know it was Steve Yzerman's choice that this guy was put in this position, that guy was put in that position? It's a really strange dynamic, and I get it. He's a legend, an absolute legend. And no matter what happens in this tenure, he's still going to be a legend. He's literally on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit heroes. Yeah. So maybe, Mike, maybe that's what precludes people from walking through that one final door and saying, wow, I guess that's kind of on Steve Yzerman, isn't it?
There were opportunities, and when you started that rant on the bringing Kane back. But remember when he brought Kane back, I said, well, everything's okay. The fact that Kane was coming back, that he was building that summer roster and making decisions like Lalonde was the coach. We were sitting 1 year ago today, Sean, doing this show and talking about the same stuff about Lalonde and the locker room and stuff. Who brought him back? Who brought him back this summer and built a roster like they had a coach? Mm-hmm. Now here we are. And again, he made the decision. What if this decision was made a year earlier? I mean, where would we be? What would the summer have looked like? I don't know. I can't say, because I still question everyone that surrounds him. I can't take it. He is the GM. It's his team that are evaluating this talent and bringing guys in. But as we were talking at the very beginning of this segment, Sean, it's not Lalonde. The problems are not solved because of that. This is very nice what's going on. I like this effort. We're back to where we were at the end of last year of possibly fighting for a playoff spot. But Sean, I can't not bring up, there's a certain team in front of us that we're going to have to get by that seems to have gotten everything together. What's going on in Montreal, Sean?
What a fun watch. They have been
How about that?
It's been a few weeks too. Mike, so they got bombed. They got bombed in a game against Pittsburgh. And I think, what did they give up? 7 in the third period? Was it 6 or 7 in the third period? And that was the come to Jesus moment. It was they're going one way or the other. And they went the other way. They did. And I mean, they have been on a tear. They have really, really been on a tear. So, is it long lasting? I don't know. but I like the way they're playing. And all of a sudden, some of the guys that weren't like Kirby Doc decided he was going to join the 24-25 season, Mike. Yeah. Like all of a sudden hey, you know what? I'm healthy, which is a rarity in and of itself. I think I'm going to play and I'm going to contribute. It's been fascinating to watch. Let me get some of these comments and then I got a couple reads and then we got to get out of here. Augustine back to his old self last night. Great point. Should have brought that up earlier, Ted. That's Augustine looked very un-Augustine-esque and bounced back. Lack of discipline for Canada is mind-boggling. No one can put the puck in the net. Snake bit. We talked about that. They gripping the stick, trying to make that cute little extra pass. What Mike's saying is why I see the excuse development as a weak excuse. Lions are talking Super Bowl while the Wings are hoping they make the playoffs, even though Steve had a 2-year head start. That is such a good point. The Lions have had more injuries than anybody can imagine, and they're still talking Super Bowl, and there's no deviation from that, and it's amazing. This is the reign of you can do better.
I want that on a t-shirt.
That's good, Jim. That's good. Here's another one in form of a question. Who decides who is promoted from Grand Rapids and who is demoted? That's the brain trust. That's that. You obviously have the coach, and then that's the people that you talked about, Mike, that have that. There are some guys that are pro scouts. There are some guys that are amateur scouts. There are some guys that just scout. So that's basically how that works. Do you like the former players being on the GM staff? I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I think a lot of people, I think there's more validity to what Mike said than anybody wants to give credence to, though. I think Steve put some guys that he knows are going to be yes men. Yeah. That's just one man's opinion, and I share that opinion with you. I really do.
How dare anybody question these ex-Red Wings that have won Stanley Cups and are legends in Hockey Town, right? I mean, it's not about them being ex-players. It's about the product on the ice. And at some point, someone has to say, you misevaluated this. This is a design problem. And until the design problem is addressed, here we go.
Hey, did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called our friends at Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? That's right. Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. Did I mention they're all hockey fans as well? So if you're watching this, you need to talk to these guys because they provide a full service and one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. They have helped many people out there like me by fixing mistakes that other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to protect you, and help save you some money. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much. You could be underinsured. Enter these guys. Seriously, Dave and Alex, these guys do a fantastic job. Joe, huge hockey fan. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quote. Mike, in the waning moments, Jim, I'm so glad that you brought this up because Mike and I have been talking about this for a long time, and this is one time I'm going to point at myself and say, don't say I didn't tell you. Is this the point where the Rangers dismantle and get Hagen, McKenna, DuPont in the next 3 drafts? The Rangers were going to be in this moment. They were going to be in this moment. If you didn't see it a year ago, you weren't paying attention. And I know some people were talking Stanley Cup aspirations. I know I had a conversation with a very prominent former NHLer who told me I was nuts for sticking with Florida, where the Rangers were a better team. They're Charmony soft. They are like that stick of butter, Mike, that you leave out in the summertime. You can get away with it on January 1 when you and I are cooking. But if you leave that stick of butter out when you and I are having a big summer barbecue, that thing's going to melt. Charmony soft, no surprise. And to that point, Brooksy, good old Brooksy, was talking about how the core of this team completely mailed it in and gave up on Laviolette. One of them in particular, you can take Panarin and his 115 points. Go have one of the most magical seasons ever, and everybody can talk about how magical you were. There is no way in hell I want that dog on my team. Keep him in the kennel. No, thank you. No shock at all that the Rangers are in this free fall to me, Mike.
Yeah, and I would love to be a fly on the wall for a show like this that's talking about the Rangers coming from New York, like we talk about the Red Wings, because let's not be shy about saying Drury came in, and who was one of his first signings to bring in was Reeves, because they weren't tough enough. Tom Wilson made them his daddy. It was unbelievable. And what did you just say? They're in the same boat. Not only they're in the same boat, Sean, how much sense does this make? That entire team is up for trade except for one guy. He's the first guy I would have gone. First guy that I would have gone. Their time has passed. It's not going to get any better. So Sturkin's hurt, and he's the one guy that on that team I would take him in a heartbeat. I can't say that I know the total breakdown. Fox, I could take Fox as I'm going through here, but there's not much there, and they're aged. They're expensive. Who's going to? I keep saying that, but yet we know what happens at the trade deadline. Someone that's real close is going to take Kreider, right? They're going to take Zibanejad. These are all the guys that are going to be there. There's going to be names that are there.
I had to include one. Once you said his Z's name, I had to get one bark out.
He's got some nice hair though. I've got to say, but that is what. But what they have, Sean, that Detroit doesn't have, is they're going to have about $23 million in cap space come just even the deadline. We're not talking about that, just come the deadline. But if it's a design problem, do you trust Drury to fix this as a Rangers guy? On the outside, I'm looking in, and he constructed this.
Boy, that sounds familiar. Doesn't that boy, it's almost like we talked about that or something, Mike. It's weird how that figures out.
And can I ask you, have you ever seen in your time, because you're a media guy, this is a media question, Drury seems to put everything right out there. Like, if he's healthy, scratching someone and why they're and who's going to be traded, and it seems to live right there in the media. Is that, am I missing something? Is that normal? Isn't that behind closed doors stuff, or is that?
Well, and I think part of it is, being in New York as well. So I brought up Brooks. You remember all the problems that Brooks had, obviously, with Tortorella? I think because it's New York, maybe things come out that they shouldn't come out because it's New York. And Brooksy, I don't know if you saw the article a few days ago, had the really good article. He said, look, these guys, and he named them by name. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Two of them should be in kennels. They have quit. That it's over. Laviolette. I'm not saying it's Laviolette's fault. Boy, tell me if that sounds familiar as well.
It's very strange.
I've heard that someplace before. I'm not saying it's Laviolette's fault per se. It's construction and makeup, but these guys have quit on him. So
yeah.
Tom Larson, are you familiar with his work? Great job, guys. Again, thanks from our family. Happy New Year, boys. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
I mention Joey Larson was on the GLI tournament team? Did I, Mike? I'm sure I mentioned that earlier.
You mentioned that. You mentioned that.
All right, we got to get out of here. Mike's got some cooking to do. When it's time to get yourself a new house, whether you're buying, selling, both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? Lindsay Broadwell. There she is. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the main streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyers. Doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay, BroadwellHomes.com. She will help get you everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Mike, I am usually the guy that people are asking this question to, but I'm going to ask you, what do you have on your smoker and grill today?
Right now, I've got a nice 4-pound chuck roast on there. It's going to go for about 3 more hours or until 165. It's fat, man. It is there. Yes. I'm going to wrap it in some beef broth, barbecue sauce, and butter to get it nice pull-apart tender. So it's going to be like a pulled beef sandwiches I'm going to make on some nice gluten-free rolls. And I've got I don't know if you're a goat cheese fan. I'm a huge goat cheese fan.
Love cheese.
So I've got a goat cheese base, and then I'm going to candy some bacon. I'm going to throw some of that Cajun andouille sausage from the Village Butcher, sprinkle some chili flakes and some Mike's Hot Honey, and put it on some I call them Shabbat, like a little buns there, and just like a little dip. And then my boy Steve Hewlett's bringing on some brisket.
Oh, sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Wish I could make it over today, pal. That sounds wonderful.
Hey, you've had a tough vacation. I think you're going to need a nap.
Yeah. Oh, I do. All right. I'll see for more reasons than one. We'll leave it at that. I'll tell you about it later. All right. We got to get out of here. Todd, thank you. Thank to all of you for joining us. Have yourselves a fantastic day. So Shep and I will be back in tomorrow at 11. Are you and Blake doing one of the shows this week as well, pal? I'm
going to say yes, but I don't even – is today Wednesday?
Yeah.
All right. Wednesday, Thursday, I believe Friday.
Okay, cool.
I believe we're doing one Friday, and whether it's early or late, but we got to get it in before the Sunday games.
All right. God bless y'all. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
What the Puck with Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Always Pushing Forward by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.